Welcome to Mark Who 42's universe. Hey guys, we're back. Yeah, we've been gone for a while, but we're back. And you know what? As Mark Baumgarten, we're gonna go over and see who else is here. Someone who's back to for us in a couple of months since we've been doing a show. Who is that?
Vicky Jakubowski.
Hey, Vicky.
Hi.
Boy, what have you been doing for the past almost 4 months? It's almost 4 months.
Oh, the usual, working, a couple ballets thrown in there and working.
All right. We also have someone else who's back. And I don't mean back from 4 weeks ago. I mean, well, he's back. He's our newly returned co-host. It's
Juan Sanmiguel. I don't know. Did I ever leave and I just kept quiet, or
I don't know, Juan, but your name has
lurking in the background.
Your name has been on the website all this time, so you never left. You've been here. Just to let everyone know, because in 2 weeks, the new Doctor Who starts. We're going to have our review of that the Monday. Well, it should come out the Monday following the episodes on Friday, Saturday, whatever it is. And it will be fun, exciting, but you know what? That's in the future. And yes, Doctor Who is the future, and the past. And we're gonna go to the present. We're in the present now, and we're talking about X-Men 97. Wow. And Vicky is going to take us away on that. Vicky?
Well, let's see. So X-Men 97. This is the brand new, that's sort of a weird thing to say, brand new Disney Plus animated TV series that takes us back to 1997. We had in 92 to 97, we had an animated series called X-Men. It is kind of a nostalgic, beloved classic for children of that age. I actually enjoyed it. My son watched it in his youth, and I watched it with him as a parent and as a lover of the X-Men. But, you know, before we get into the new X-Men, I want to know your feelings about the original animated series. Did you watch it? Did you like it? What were your feelings about it? Juan, tell me about it.
Well, I know I watched it. I mean, I did a quick look at the old episode guides, because the thing is, I couldn't remember the ending, but I thought I did watch it regularly. It was one of the things I looked forward to on Saturday morning. Now, I was older. I was in my 20s, but this was an adaptation of the X-Men, and they finally got it. I mean, it took them years. I mean, there was a failed pilot, and and where they didn't have Wolverine's accent right. There was and also there were cameos on other Marvel shows, notably Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So and then it finally came out, and you know, I would look forward. It also came out at the same time Batman came out, or pretty close to the same time. So yeah,
and Spider-Man.
Well, I think Spider-Man came after, and also I think, as I understand it, and again, people correct me if I'm wrong, the Spider-Man was supposed to come in. I just been listening. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'll probably cross-reference podcasts, and there was a podcast which explained when there was a Spider-Man movie. It might have been the Cameron Spider-Man movie in the works. The Spider-Man cartoon was going to dive into that. That's why, because I think Electro was going to. The reason you didn't see certain villains in that show was because they were going to be in the movie. At least that's what I've been told. I heard. I mean, when one of the recent Spider-Man movies, there's a podcast called Best Movies Never Made, and they went over to Cameron. But that was the thing. The Spider-Man came after, and there was one of the few first crossovers was Spider-Man and X-Men. Which was weird because I think there were two animation houses and styles and difference.
That was in the last season.
I thought that Spider-Man the animated series and X-Men animated series not only were the same production house, but they were both 5 seasons before they got canceled. They seemed to be, the same basic universe. I didn't see a difference in production styles.
Oh,
But
I thought there
I mean, I
was.
could be
I
wrong,
thought they were different too.
but
The
I
quality
don't
I
know.
felt was different.
Okay.
The 90s Spider-Man versus some of the earlier
Yeah.
versions, the
Yeah.
60s and the 70s versions of Spider-Man.
I'll have to go back and look.
But
Yeah.
I do know that the last season, which they didn't know they were going to have of X-Men, because when they did
Mhm.
the 4th season of X-Men, the animated series, they did, what was it, a 4-part series with
Yeah.
Cable? And they thought that was going to be it. That was going to be it. And then suddenly Fox said, oh, no, let's go ahead and do one more series. And then suddenly we get a 5th series and the quality is completely different. It looks like someone different drew it, someone different wrote it. I mean, it's not horrible by any imagination. It
Okay.
has some really good stories to it, and it really sets us up for the new series.
Mhm.
But it's just, if you compare season 5 and season 4, it's like, who are these people and where did they go? Because they're different. They're not the same
Mhm.
drawing techniques. And then they introduce a lot more cameos in season 5.
Ah.
And there was some chatterbox back in the day. You know, this of course was before the internet was the juggernaut it is today.
Mhm.
But there was a lot of chatter back then about the movies and things that they were going to do, and things that didn't happen. And unfortunately, maybe fortunately, maybe unfortunately, who knows, depends on what would have happened. But it was such an interesting dichotomy in season 5 because it
Mhm.
all changed. And so you kind of go, it's kind of like the last season
Mhm.
of Batman the animated series is actually Batman and Robin. It's not
Yeah.
actually Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it's interesting. And then you kind of feel like the corporate gurus got their hands and they put their fingers in the pot and they
yeah.
mess with it a little bit.
I got to say, I probably am completely wrong because I got to make this admission. X-Men and Spider-Man, I didn't really watch it. I did feel, was it on Saturdays? Was
We
it on
still love
Monday?
you anyway.
Was it on Saturdays or Monday through Friday, Juan?
It was on Saturdays. It was
Yeah,
on
I didn't watch
Saturday on
Saturday.
Fox.
I didn't watch Saturday shows in the 90s. Now for this, I have gone back to watch X-Men. As of where we are now, I made it to season 3 right after the Phoenix Saga, not Dark Phoenix, but the Phoenix Saga. And that's all I've got to. But, and I'll be bringing this up during our talk of X-Men 97, I did read the comics from Claremont, the whole. So I've got some interesting aspects to talk about the liberties taken. But yes, it's supposed to be it is supposed to be an adaptation, so it's not really liberties. But yeah, okay.
Well, isn't that, well, we'll talk about that
We'll
when
talk
we
about
get
it
to
later.
there.
I know, I know.
We'll get that to
That
there
was
with
just
it.
foreshadowing.
So
That was
then the show ends, and and I think that we can say this part, a little bit of spoilers to anyone. If you haven't watched to episode 7 yet of the new X-Men series, watch it, come back to the show and finish
yeah.
listening.
Please stop.
Um,
Stop the recording right now.
stop, come back.
Watch, come back. It's kind of like what Will Wheaton does on the Ready Room.
Yes.
Yeah. Red alert. Okay. Welcome back. Okay. So let me say that. Welcome back,
So
everyone who left.
the end of X-Men the animated series, we have Charles is gravely ill. He goes, he leaves. We don't know if he's going to live or die. He goes with his love in space, and oh my God, what's going to happen? What's the next thing that's going to happen? Nobody knows. Oh, the world's going to, one of those kind of, it was a very melodramatic end. I'm sorry. It was kind of a soap opera type ending where everything was left up in the air and anything that could happen could happen. And now we start the new episode. And the new episode in X-Men 97 starts right back up.
Yeah.
Almost immediately. it feels.
Yeah. But see, for me, because I hadn't watched season 5, I mean, I've been told, you know what? So in that first episode of X-Men 97, I'm watching the title sequence. And
The title
Xavier's
sequence are
Xavier's there.
important.
No, I love it because Xavier's there. And I think I wrote to you guys in the link. But then in episode 2, okay, it was a false herring. Okay.
The title sequences become very important and they
Yeah.
change
Mhm.
episode to episode. That is something Marvel has been doing with their series is they play around with the title sequence. Normally, what do you do when you're watching a TV show? And you got the opening intro. How many people hit skip intro?
Why does it say it there if you need to see it?
Juan, what did you think about the intros?
Well, I mean, I usually don't. Well, about the issue of skipping intros, it depends on what my passion is for the intro. For some shows, I'll skip it, and for others, I won't. And right now, I can't think of any that I'd skip, unless I'm doing a marathon. And if it's a marathon, I need to get to the change. I had no problem with it. I mean, the thing is, I do love that theme. I do pay. I mean, I guess it shows you who the players will be for the episode, or at least who will be the X-Men presenting on the episode. So it's kind of like a visual of the corner that they used to have in Marvel Comics up until I guess the 90s when they abandoned the corner picture of particularly, which was very important in team books to show you who was going to be in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know what I hated about the title sequence? I have to admit, the end of the title sequence where they have the good guys and the bad guys running each other, and Magneto is on the bad guys because they're using it, they're completely lifting it from the old title sequence. But you really shouldn't be doing that unless you're telling us something is going to happen in a couple of, well.
I think that ending bit is just pulling it straight from
that's what it is.
The 92. And the downside to that is you're right. That last second of the title sequence does not necessarily specifically have anything to do with the rest of what you're about to see. But it is kind of interesting the way that everything in it is a foreshadowing of who's in it, who's not in it, who's in the title sequence, how are they presented. And one of the things that I'm going to say about X-Men and any comic book that has existed for a long time, and Mark's heard me say this before, Juan, is that when you have a property that has existed for a while, and X-Men has only been since the 60s, where some of the other properties go back to the 40s and the 30s, you know, they've gone through a couple of different storylines maybe, or maybe there's a couple of different we'll call them alternate universes because sometimes that's how they get retconned. And so it's always interesting to see what they end up picking and choosing. And for me, I notice things like immediately the costumes, the relationships, the behaviors. And it was very interesting when they show us Magneto for the first time, because that was a version of Magneto that is after I stopped reading the comic books. Because by that point I became a parent and I was a little busy. I still have a collection of comic books and someday I will read them again. Now that he's all grown up and he's out of the house, I'm trying to make more time to read. But I just, you know, what did you guys get out of any surprises that you got out of the title sequence, Mark?
Well, I liked, like I said, the first episode with Xavier in it. I'm like, okay, this is not how did this happen? Episode 2, he's gone, Magneto's on, and okay, that's what the show is going. And then that, like I said, the ending kept bothering me. And then I liked the changes they were doing. I think they did fit, except I have to keep going on that last 5 seconds. Can't not, because that just bothered me to heck. Really did. There's nothing. I don't know what else to say. I was disappointed because of that, and I will say it over and over if I have to. And I guess I have said it over and over. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay, so let's delve into the do we want to talk about the first episode? Well, let's talk about the first two episodes since they
Okay.
dropped at the same time.
Okay.
Seemed very normal. We've got a reading of the will. Now, who was surprised that Magneto was left the school?
Well,
Not
not me,
me, it happened.
because yeah, I mean the
Because
thing
it
is,
happened at least once in the comic
Yeah.
books.
yeah,
Yeah.
in X-Men, I mean the thing is, episode 2 is a kind of an adaptation of X-Men 200, which was the trial of Magneto,
I was
but
gonna
with
bring
big
that up.
change, but with big changes
Okay.
because we don't have Gabby, who is Charles's Israeli girlfriend from the 80s,
Yeah.
who is Magneto's defense attorney.
Hmm.
They said it in Paris. I don't know why they said it in Paris, since
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
the international courts I thought were in Hague, but maybe they were in Paris at the time.
Maybe
And,
in the X-Men
Yeah.
universe.
yeah. So it was in Paris, and the villains
Yeah.
were not the Friends of Humanity, but it was the Furnace twins, Baron Strucker's twin children, if I recall correctly,
Yeah.
because that's how Xavier and Magneto met when they were trying to stop a
Mhm.
Baron Strucker plot, probably with hidden Nazi gold and that. Like, I mean, I remember I read that story at my local library because they had a good store of comics that you could check out or read at
Ooh.
there. So, and also at that point, this was actually when just a quick trivia. The whole thing in Israel was a flashback when Xavier was in a coma because of something that happened when he was
Yeah.
in space. He was attacked, and so he
Mm.
was in a weird coma. So I mean, but so they made a bunch of changes, and
Yeah.
I can understand that because they haven't introduced Gabby, they haven't introduced the Furnace twins. It would have taken a lot of setup.
Mhm.
So instead, they moved it from Paris to New York. The Friends of Humanity are trying to rate, which also brings it topical because obviously it brings it into the January 6th.
Mhm.
Yes.
Brings back January 6th memories. So
Yes.
of people, going over some type of government institution.
Mhm.
So it's I thought I mean that was number 2. Number 1 was just a setup for number 2.
Right.
Although
Mhm.
I do have to say something. I'm dealing with some will issues right now. Wills do not come in giant tomes.
That's one heck of a will.
Xavier's did.
I mean, it looks
Apparently
like
he had a lot to do.
He had a lot. Well, he
it
has.
looks like
he
a
has
novel.
Yeah.
I know. I
Oh,
mean, come on. Usually it's a couple of pages.
yeah.
Well, he was rich, so maybe who knows? Maybe
he's got the building. He's school. He's
yes.
got. He's got
Maybe there's
Muir
something
Island.
from
I bet
Mystique
Muir.
later on we
I
just
bet
don't
he
know
own-
about.
I bet he
You know?
owns Muir Island. I bet he owns Muir Island, and they just haven't told us. No. I was gonna totally. That was one of the things I was gonna point out. When I don't want to say ripoffs, but the direct, the taking
Yeah.
without completely taking was issue 200, the trial, and the picture on the front of issue 200 was the same shot that they show in the animated in 97 in the second episode, where he's in chains and his arms are crossed in like an X.
I've seen the picture.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at the graphic for this episode, you will see issue 200 and the picture right there, so you can compare on your own. But yeah, another thing, this is something I have a question of, because the show 92, the original show, took place modern. Is X-Men 97 back in 97, or have they moved everything up to present day? Because
I think it's
I
a
need to know
little
that,
of
because
both.
if it is in 97, January 6th hasn't happened, 9/11 hasn't
Well-
happened, a lot of differences haven't happened. So I'm just wondering if they moved everything up and it's actually 2024, or if it is 97.
Well, they refer to, in several of the episodes, they refer to the year.
Uh-huh.
So the
I missed
years,
those. Okay.
the years match up.
Okay.
Because at one point, I could have sworn they said it was 1997. in one of the episodes. I could have
Okay.
sworn they said it was 1997.
Yeah.
But yes, the creators have come out and said that they were influenced by the pole shooting in Florida,
Oh, okay.
the 9/11, January 6th. There were several influences, both modern and further back, that were absolutely influencing it. And they were taking a few more liberties that they couldn't take, because back in 92, they could not directly use the storyline that Magneto was a victim of the Holocaust, because they
Why
could
couldn't
not,
they?
for some reason, in
Because
a
that's an integral part
child's,
of his character.
I know, but in a child's TV show, in a
Okay.
cartoon,
Okay.
they could not mention the Nazis and the Holocaust. And there was a big uproar, because even I was kind of like, "Well, it's the Holocaust. Why are they not saying Nazis?"
Yeah.
And there was a big uproar even back then about the fact that the networks would not allow that to be said in a child show. And I'm like, really? I told my child about it.
Yeah.
You know?
else I noticed? I also noticed that, in the 92 to 97, back in those days, you could not kill a person.
Yeah.
We can now. And I
Yes.
think it did happen a few times, or more than a few times. They're not just they're not just have a building on top of them and they're getting out. They're dead. People are dead
Yes.
in this new show.
And it's very, it's I feel like this series is giving us more of the realness, as much as an animated series can give us lots of realness, actually. But as much as this show can give us realness, this series is trying to give us more realness than the original 5 seasons ever could, because of the censors of the time. Juan, how do you feel about some of that dichotomy change?
Well, obviously I think it's better. There were a lot. Yeah, I do remember there were a lot of limits. I mean, you couldn't, obviously, the no kill, or kill on camera. Now you made me wonder. I haven't rewatched any of it, so I do remember that they did do a World War II story focused on Wolverine and Captain America. But I think they just, I just think the Nazi troops and the Red Skull just couldn't wear swastikas.
Yeah.
So they had to just be generic uniforms and stuff like that. So, but then again, also this takes place in the movie. I don't know. I wasn't worried about the time. I mean, I wasn't worried about what time it's set. I mean, unless they show I mean, one of the biggest indications is a cell phone,
Right.
or what state the internet is in. So that didn't bother me in the story. I mean, I just wanted to see the story, so I wasn't thinking about I wasn't thinking about what time. I wasn't thinking about it until you mentioned it right now. It's like, literally, it's okay.
That's my job.
It's like, okay, we're just heading into the story. We're carrying it off where it left off. I mean, well, the beginning of episode 1, or the ending of the X-Men series, that was the end of X-Men 200, because Charles was getting sick and he needed to be taken to Shi'ar to get treatment, but he was going to be off the Earth for a while.
Right.
So that's why he had to leave. He asked Magneto to leave, to take over the school and look after things while he was off on Earth. And I don't know if they faked his death or not, or they just said, hey, Charles is off somewhere. And I think they might have actually made Magneto a relative, an unknown, as he had an identity as a relative, so he could hand over his property to without any problem. At least that's how I remember. There was something like that.
What was I going to say? Now, for everyone listening, who are surprised that Magneto, a quote unquote villain, got to lead the X-Men. Do you remember when Grant Morrison took over and did the new X-Men, or changed the title, and White Queen ended up being the high? Yeah. So it's because mutants are not necessarily evil; they're just misunderstood.
Well, I will say this: Marvel has had a little bit more flexibility,
Yeah.
even from
Yeah.
day one,
Yeah.
because Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were originally in the Brotherhood, even before they
Right.
knew even
Mhm.
before they knew that Magneto was their father.
Mhm.
Right.
And then they decided to just, switch over with the X-Men.
Yeah.
No, switch over to the Avengers
Yeah.
when we needed a new team of Avengers, and there was hardly any thought going to it, so
Yeah.
it didn't surprise me. And actually, it's interesting you bring up Grant Morrison's
Okay.
for two reasons. One,
Yes.
as we are going on, we're now entering at least Grant Morrison stories, and
Yep.
also another video podcast which I follow is called Casually Comics,
Mhm.
run by a lovely Canadian woman by the name of Sasha Wood, and she's actually going over episode by episode, seeing how they overlap, and she's also doing
Ah.
shows,
Mm.
but she's also doing individual shows about the Grant Morrison era, and she actually has the whole Grant Morrison collection,
Oh, awesome.
which also has Grant Morrison's, for lack of a better word, a manifesto he tried to use to try when he said, "Okay, this is what
Yeah.
I want to do with the book."
I like
Gotcha.
that run. I like that run of books.
Although
But
it seems
yeah.
like and we'll get to this later, I assume they might be changing the villain
Hmm.
behind what happened in Genosha, but
Yeah.
I'll
Kind
assume
of
we'll
get
get
that
there.
We'll get
feeling,
that. We'll get
don't
that.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
let's
Yes,
talk.
it'll
Yeah,
be interesting to see where that's going. But yeah, we can get to that one in a little bit. Well, talking about switching is one of the things that has always struck me about the character of Magneto. Whether we're talking in the comic books, in the various series, the movies, is he is one of those characters who you kind of know why he's got so much hatred in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you wish he didn't have so much hatred in his heart, and you wish that, but every time he tries to do it Charles's way, it blows up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's one of these horrible things where he keeps getting proven right. And so I think it's been very important to the X-Men saga, again, through all the various mediums, to have
Mm.
Charles and Magneto, so you can have the hardliner and the softer side. Not that Charles is always soft, but
Mm-hmm.
it just I've always gravitated towards Magneto. Because I can understand him, and I can
Yeah.
understand that anger, and I can also understand why he would be such an amazing
Yeah.
leader
What's
if
interesting?
if he
Go ahead.
well, if the humans would not keep mucking it up.
Yeah.
Although he does get in his own way too. Let's
Yeah.
be honest. He gets in his own way plenty of
Mm.
times.
But you see, and the fact that Magneto can do, be good and stuff. The fact that when they introduced those not evil, see, the Brotherhood
Uh-huh.
of Evil Mutants, they're not evil.
They're not evil.
They're not. They're trying to live. And yes, because the humans are attacking them, they're fighting
Yes.
back. But, I bet that if they were welcome into society, not Juggernaut, but, yeah, I'm not going there. He's not really, Juggernaut's not really a mutant, is he? It's the helmet. It's the helmet. But the Blob, why would any of them be evil if they were accepted? They're not accepted. They have to fight back, and that's a problem with the X-Men. The whole allegory of the X-Men
Yes.
being representative of different sects of life.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just that's actually a great part of it.
Stan Lee talks about
Yeah.
how the X-Men started off as an allegory for racism
Yeah.
and minorities, and even some of the people behind the new series
Mhm.
have talked about specifically And there is some language that is definitely, as you go through these first 7 episodes, the LGBTQ community,
Yes.
that it is very obvious that anybody who is in the minority, or who is not being heard, or who is, the majority is just wanting to push down and oppress. The X-Men has always kind of stood for that. And so, and it's kind of one of the reasons I think that they've always been so wildly popular. Lots of other reasons too, but I always loved them because I just felt that the stories always spoke to me. And there was just something about them that was just really amazing. So, but then we get to, and of course, the ending of the second episode, the birth of a mutant baby, and immediately you have a doctor who won't perform the birth. I'm like, and I just, now here's a storyline that I had forgotten. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'd forgotten the storyline of Madelyne until I was watching this episode, because it'd been a long time since I'd heard the storyline, and a lot of it had happened in later years. And I had to go back and listen to a bunch of other podcasts to get myself back up to speed. So
I actually have notes on that.
Aha! So
no,
but the second I saw it, I was like, I immediately, and up comes to the door, and she says she's Jean Grey. I believed that girl at the door was Jean Grey, and the girl who gave birth to Cable, I already knew it wasn't Jean Grey, because I remember that I remember the whole story about how Cable's mother wasn't actually Jean Grey, but was a clone. And so I remembered that whole storyline. But I mean, talk about a kind of a okay, the X-Men are a soap opera, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. Madelyne Pryor, her first episode issue was on Kenny X-Men 168, which was back in 1983. And this was after Jean Grey died, and Scott comes around and, oh, look at her, she looks just like Jean, and falls in love with her. And then there's like a scene in one of the issues where he accidentally calls her Jean, and she punches him in the nose, and that's a fun scene. But the whole point of Chris Claremont bringing in Madelyne Pryor was because he was going to have Scott Summers, Cyclops, get with her and leave the X-Men. He's going to retire in, I guess, Alaska, and they were going to bring up a family. And then whoever came up with X Factor totally blew that storyline that Chris Claremont had.
I think that might have been still in the Shooter era, but don't.
It was. It probably was. He was. Oh God, the Shooter era.
Many good things happened in the Shooter era.
I actually agree with that. But I've been reading all these nonfiction books about Marvel Comics and the history, and Jim Shooter was an asshole. Did I say that on the radio? I'm sorry. I'm not even.
You can bleep yourself, honey.
I'm not going to bleep that. That's it. Because we're not on Odyssey Radio right now.
That's
or Substage
true.
Radio. I don't care. And yes, iTunes has a little thing. I think you can get away with that word. But yeah. But so. They ended up what? She became the Goblin Queen during Inferno or something. Yeah. So I'm wondering if Goblin Queen's going to come up in '97 in either this season, or if there's a second.
Well, she technically did. Well, she's not episode Goblin 3.
Did she turn into the Goblin Queen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm standing correct. I don't remember watching that.
Yeah,
episode 3.
Explain what happened, because I don't remember that.
Evil Jean gets a new wardrobe, which is very revealing.
Okay, but she's not
the impossible costumes.
But is she taken over, or rather coerced by the demons yet, or was that just the
Well,
costume?
that was a weird thing, and now that you bring that up, I think that is kind of weird that they decided to reduce the Inferno into one episode,
Right. So I'm thinking they
whereas
may
it
go.
was
Yeah.
the big summer event in Marvel, because it did cross over to the other,
Yeah.
to non-mutant books, right?
Yeah.
Or am
Yes,
I
it did. It
incorrect?
did.
Okay.
Spider-Man had some stuff, and Daredevil. Yeah.
So I don't know what, I mean, they could have had a season with that. I mean, I don't know why they decided,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, we're gonna get the Goblin Queen is gonna show up. They're gonna Nathan isn't baby Nathan is in jeopardy.
Mhm.
And we're going to wrap it up we're gonna wrap it up at the end.
Mm.
And also
Yeah.
you bring up something that's, I don't know where I heard this. I
Okay.
don't know if it was from Casually Comics or some other show. What did you find it weird that a friend of yours was dating somebody who kind of looked exactly
Yeah.
like their previous partner?
Yes.
It's like,
Seen
Espe-
it happen, and I've said, "Sweetie, what are you
Really?
doing? That looks
Especially,
like your ex. That looks creepy like
yeah.
your ex."
I think Logan would have something to say to him. I really do.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, of
Gambit,
course, everyone
Gambit might be
thought
fine.
in
Gambit,
here,
yeah, yeah.
in this series, in
Mhm.
this case, in the animated
oh
series,
yeah, yeah.
they think she's Jean Grey.
Yeah.
But in the comic,
No.
I absolutely agree with you. I would be smacking you upside the
Mhm.
head, going, "No, honey, move on. Pick a
Yeah.
new type."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It
not
was creepy.
healthy.
It was very creepy. It was very
Because
creepy.
then you start going into Rear Window type Alfred Hitchcocky, where he gives her the hair dye and makes her put on the dress, and it's like, no, this never ends well.
Oh
Someone fell
no.
off the bell tower, you know.
No.
Um, sorry.
That's good. That's good.
It just it, and I agree with you. Having this be one episode, and I get that this is a limited run
Right.
animation series. And so they're trying to pack a big punch
Mhm.
into, what is it going to be? Total of 11 episodes?
10.
Hang on, I've got it
10
up.
season
Yeah, 10
season 1 is 10.
episodes.
Thank
Season
you.
1 is 10.
Because then the remaining episodes is a multi-arc series
Mhm.
of that's supposed to close it all up. But to have episode 3
Mhm.
kind of be this one encapsulation, they pack an awful lot. Well, actually, I'm going to be honest. They pack an awful lot into each one of these episodes. And when you think
Yeah.
about how short these episodes are, it
But they're
kind
not
of
25 minutes long. I was looking, they're 35 to almost 40 minutes long, these episodes, without commercials.
so if they had commercials, it would be an hour-long show
Yeah,
on
yeah,
prime
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But still, you know, they pack so much goes
Yeah.
in to each one of these episodes. And I will say, and my biggest complaint about episode 3, and maybe I'm
Mhm.
talking as a mom,
Okay.
um, um, maybe I could give my kid up if I needed to for the greater of humanity. I don't know if I would be capable of doing that.
No.
I'm not sure that I have any bone in my body that would be capable of doing that. Even if it was, I'd say screw the human race, they can all die. Um,
Yeah.
um, but the fact that she goes from, you know, Madelyne to Goblin Queen to Nathan's mom
Yeah.
in the span of this episode, you know, it's kind of like how you joke about you know, an episode of Law and Order, how they, you know, the murder's committed, they find the murderer, and he's convicted all within 45 minutes, you know. And it was like, wow, there was so much that
Mhm.
happened in this one episode. My
Yeah.
brain is oozing out the side of my ears. But at the same time, there's a lot of it was really good.
Mhm.
And I do appreciate the fact that her Goblin Queen costume did not defy gravity. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know who this show is aimed at. Well, I guess it's aimed at us who watch it in 92,
I
87.
suspect it's more
So,
aimed at the nostalgia group
yeah.
than at
But
children.
they want the kids to watch it too. They need to build up
It's
Well,
very
no-
tame for kids these days.
Yeah, but I don't know what the original show's target, demographic, or for that
True.
matter, or Batman the animated series.
Oh my
that it
gosh.
was
Saturday
aimed-
morning.
Well, Saturday morning, but
cartoons.
at the same time, they were there was a seriousness to it. I
Okay.
mean, there was
Yes.
stakes. There were
Mhm,
stakes. There were
mhm.
legitimate stakes, and sometimes. And now, one of the I don't think they did an X-Men, but somebody pointed out in a Clayface story there might have been a male homosexual relationship in it that they tried to
there?
sneak in. Somebody says that
Oh.
Matt Hagen, because Matt Hagen had that, he was an actor and he had this
Right.
buddy who was
Right.
with him,
Right.
and
Oh.
somebody had an opinion. Hey, wait a minute. They're a bit close. I mean, obviously they didn't kiss on screen. This is the 90s, and you probably
Right.
wouldn't get away with that.
But that
But
was about as close as you could get
Right.
away
So-
with back then.
Wow.
So
That's an interesting point. I like
but
that.
back to the X-Men. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
the X-Men tried to do anything. Well, Destiny was never in the comics, so you couldn't do the whole Rogue thing with
Right.
the Mystique and Destiny,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
was always an implication in the comics. So and the thing is, but I think X-Men even in the 90s was, although they were restricted, they were aiming, because again there were tangible stakes, there were risks. I mean,
Mhm.
you did believe the characters were in jeopardy. I mean, they did supposedly,
It's
they killed
probably
off
more of the older teen market.
Right.
Wow.
the older teens, right? That's exactly right, Vicky.
Yeah.
And not to mention, they supposedly killed off Morph in the
Morph,
second
right, right.
episode.
That's
and then
right.
he came back.
And
they
also
saved
trivia,
him.
supposedly there was a mutant in the early days, in the mid 60s or early 70s, called Changeling,
Yes.
but they couldn't use
Oh,
that name
yeah.
because
of the DC.
of DC, because
Yeah.
Beast Boy was going by Changeling
Yeah.
at that time. So that was one of the, but no, Changeling, the famous thing that Changeling did was, there was a story where they killed off Xavier,
Mhm.
and this was before the new X-Men,
Yeah.
and it turns out, no, he's alive. I had Changeling pretend to be me so I could prepare for this alien invasion. And
So what you're saying is Changeling might be Morph, is where we're going with this.
yeah, it's or the
Which is
same
actually
thing.
in the title sequences of the original X-Men 92, or I guess we're going to call it that to differentiate it.
Sure.
Did Morph ever get into the title sequence?
I don't think so. I
Because
think
I was really amazed and pretty when he was in this one.
But I
when
will
he's in
say
our title
something. In
sequence.
those days, you didn't change. It was very difficult
Yeah,
to change your title sequences. I mean, even in the 2000s.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's true. That's true.
Another tangent, and I'll be quick about it, is I was just listening to a podcast
Mhm.
where they interviewed Manny Koto, who ran the last season of Enterprise, and he did have to at least have a discussion, to put it politely, with Berman to change the title sequence for the mirror episodes.
Oh, wow,
that he did
yeah.
in the last season.
Oh,
So you don't want to, because I guess it does cost money to change,
It does.
Oh, yeah.
and particularly for animation. I mean, in
Mm.
anime, most of your good chunk, you completely amortize the opening sequence in anime,
Right.
Yes.
because that's really fully animated or running.
Yeah.
Oh, you always have running in that, and you have birds
Yes.
and stuff like that. There's a lot going on, more than you might get in an average episode. So I think that was, I mean, so they weren't going to have Morph around. I don't think they brought back Morph until the second or third.
It was
I
the
forget
second
which
season.
Yeah,
was the
it was
second
later.
season
they brought him
with
back.
Mr. Sinister. It was the
Right.
second season.
Yes.
And on that note, guys, we have to take a break. I need to promote the stations that we're on, Florida Geek Scene, Geekcast Radio. So we're going to do that. And when we come back, we'll have more of X-Men 97 here on Mark Who 42's Universe.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Oh, hey, I got something.
Since 2009, we have been the premier cartoon podcast here at the Geekcast Radio Network. We are Tooncast. From taking you beyond the cartoons we grew up with to seasonal saucy toon talk, and now we get the origins of toonsters everywhere as we ask guests 30 questions about their cartoon watching experiences, plus so much more. Tooncast is back. Join me, TFG and Mike, and the rest of the GCRN crew as we give you all the toon talk you will ever need, only on the GCRN and wherever you consume your podcasts. We are beyond good, beyond evil, beyond your wildest imagination. We are all tunes all the time here on Tooncast.
Yeah.
Get ready for the ultimate geek experience right here in the Sunshine State. Florida Geek Scene presents a full calendar of events and conventions. From anime to horror, we've got it all. Meet your favorite stars, find rare collectibles, and immerse yourself in your passions. Experience the thrill of cosplay and witness amazing live performances. Stay up to date with the latest news and reviews all across Florida. Florida Geek Scene, where pop culture happens. Visit us online for more. Don't miss out on the fun. Join us at Florida Geek Scene. FloridaGeekScene.com.
You are listening to Mark Who 42's Universe.
Welcome back to Mark Who 42's Universe. Yay! I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me today is Vicky Jakubowski and Juan Sanmiguel. And we're talking all about X-Men 97. Okay, the music is catchy. What can I say? Vicky?
That is true. I like the fact that they keep some of the sounds from the original series, and they keep initially they keep the theme song, but then they start to make adjustments, shall we say. So they keep the theme of the original theme song. If you understand music, you've got the bass theme, and then they riff on it. And so I really like that, because that way you still get that nostalgia, and you get these bits of nostalgia. So that's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I am enjoying this, and this is making me go, I do have to continue and watch the rest of the original, because I'm really enjoying this. I thought I would, but there's like so much that they take from the comics. So I'm actually at the beginning, I was like going to complain, oh, they're ripping it, but they're not. They're using storylines and they're changing it so you can watch and read and get a different story, which is always important. When they do a straight adaptation, it's sometimes what was the reason? Like when Star Wars, the comic came out, when the movie came out, and it started like a few weeks before the movie came out, they had the comic had the scenes that were cut out of the movie with Biggs and leaving and stuff. And so even though a lot of the comic was the same, there were some differences, so I could enjoy both. But and even Target novelizations, they add things on Doctor Who. They add things, they rework things that didn't work. I know they just they're releasing a Horns of Nyman CD and audiobook CD, and that's a terrible well, it's not terrible, but they were explaining how it's been improved when Terrence Dicks wrote them up. So yeah, I'm glad that they have tweaked and changed it, and I like the fact they're using ideas that worked in the comics back in the 80s and 90s.
I agree. And it's hard to do faithful adaptations because then you have to decide which storyline you're going to do. We've seen this, and Mark, you and I have had discussions about this before, and I'm sure you and Juan have had discussions. It's like the Avengers. How many storylines are there for Thor? The Endgame, all that. They changed it up for a couple of different reasons. Either because there is runtime, there is storyline, there is changing the medium. When you something from either a comic book, a graphic novel, a written word book, a visual medium, it is oftentimes you got to tweak something. It's just the way it works.
Right.
Now, sometimes, they have to tweak things because there's too much. I mean, any adaptation of any book ever that's been done, they always have to leave things out
Yeah.
because unless it is 100-page book, um, there's too much information, and some things don't translate over well.
I can give another example. Superman, Death and Life of Superman. The adaptation of the Death of Superman and the Reign of the Superman and the Funeral for a Friend. Roger Stern wrote the book, which he was one of the people writing the comics, so he knew what was going on, and he took, what is it, like 25, at least 25, 30 issues and put it into one novel, one piece of prose, and the book worked as well as the comics. And so the audio book that the audio play that the BBC put out was different and yet told the main story. And so all three of those mediums worked as an adaptation, the two as an adaptation, and they could not be the same. And for length, it's
Right.
interesting. The BBC play, I think the last 4 issues of the comics, the sequence, so the big thing with the cyborg Superman, and the whole thing takes place in like 10 minutes of the audio play because it still works. But yeah,
Well,
Right.
that's the thing about comics is that, and some other, particularly of comics, these classic storylines needed setup.
yeah,
I mean, Madelyne Pryor had to be set up, a couple of issues before they did something big with her. I mean, the reveal that she was a clone didn't happen for years. I mean, just the reveal that she was. And the thing is, the initial was, it's just an amazing coincidence. I don't know when Clarisse was going to release that balloon that, it was more than an amazing coincidence because there was going to, I mean, then that got derailed because they wanted to bring the original Jean Grey back.
yeah,
and
that
whatever.
really pissed
But again,
Chris up. Yeah,
the point is, you can't do the setup, and that's, I guess, the problem with the Inferno is the Inferno requires setup. And as I said, they could have done a year, they could have done a whole 10 episodes on Inferno, but for whatever reason, they go, nah, let's. Not to mention with Inferno, you need to pull in. And another interesting thing is, I think in the last episode we showed it. Now they've got, I think, the whole scope of the Marvel universe, because I think you rarely saw non-mutants on the show. And in the last episode, we got General Ross, Thunderbolt Ross, and they implied that the Hulk is somewhere around.
Right.
And also we have Captain America, who's investigating, and I don't know if we're going to have a big Avengers.
It kind of makes
X-Men.
you wonder.
yeah.
There's a lot of, between word and little cameos, the over connection and the interconnection with the MCU universe as we know it today.
Well, now the thing is, now I think most, if not all, the characters, at least are now under the same roof, which they weren't.
I think Spider-Man is still the only one that is.
Well, they've got a deal. They've got a deal.
Yes.
At least
because Sony only makes money when they do it with the MCU.
Yeah. Oh, that's been proven. Well, do you think Craven's going to do any good? Craven the Hunter.
I'll be honest. I feel bad.
I feel bad about that one too.
The trailer, but actually, I'm checking. I wanted to see if Madam Web is at the Dollar Theater.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, you know what? I hate to say it.
I know. I'm waiting for that one to come on TV, and I'll watch it that way.
I remember all movies ended up at the Dollar Theater back in the day when I was.
Yes, it still is. I could see it at 9:15 today if I want.
Wow.
For $2.
Oh, wait a minute. They raised it from $1? I won't buy that for $2.
Look, the cheaper in Orlando, the cheapo theater, I think used to be $1, but now it's like $1 on Tuesday. It's cheaper than a mainstream, a first run theater.
So it's on Tuesdays. So they gladly pay you Tuesday for a film today.
In this theater, you get a cheaper rate on some day of the week. I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah, I have one near me. It's $5 on Monday and Tuesday, but it's better than 12 or 15 or 18. Anyway, let's rein it back in. Let's rein it back in.
So let's go. Let's pop over to Let's be
Oh, wait,
because
wait,
we're what
wait,
what
wait.
what?
I have a question, and this relates to the whole season so far.
Yes.
I know it happened. I am trying to figure out where in the comics, because I don't remember that Magneto and Rogue were an item. I
don't remember that in the comics,
I
but
think
I
it
heard
was
from somebody that is in the comics.
Yeah, it is in the comics. I haven't found it, and I could, if I put a little more effort, I'd find it. But on overall summary, I could find the trial Magneto. That was easy. The Forge thing that we'll be getting into. I those were easy to find. But the relationship, I know it happened. I just don't remember where. But I like
Age
the
of
relationship. I
Apocalypse?
like the fact that Gambit has competition now. That because the fact that she can touch Magneto because of his magnetic powers and influence. Yeah, I enjoy that storyline. I wonder where it's going to go, because I know they're not going to take it where it was in the comic.
It's a Chris Claremont.
Yeah, Chris Claremont.
Yeah,
my hero. It sucked when they took him off, because he wanted to keep going, and we're like, oh, we're going to get all these people. All right, fine, I'm going.
Well, no, what usually happens, and this happened to Peter David, is that you will have, they're going to offer you, they're going to force you to do a storyline you don't want to do, and it's like you either do it or you got to move on.
Well, see, the way it was working out was that Chris Claremont was in charge of the X-Men section of the Marvel Universe. And then, let's put X Factor in. Let's do New Mutants. And so he had either more work or he had to give up control. And he tried to do the more work, but eventually, like Jim Lee and Liefeld, they start, when they're doing it as artists, they also want to write the stories because it's them. So they were pulling it away from Claremont, and he was like, I'm gone.
So it looks like it was in a couple of different runs. Age of Apocalypse, X-Men Chronicles, X-Men Alpha, they marry and have a child together.
Okay. Okay.
Named Charles.
Okay. I believe no, I can buy that. I don't think
I can buy that.
I don't think I read that one. Interesting. But it was an Age of Apocalypse. But that doesn't count. That's a different reality. That doesn't count.
I know. And so it just and that's always the interesting thing that I have found in the comics when I would read them. Now, Juan doesn't know this about me yet, but I grew up military, so I moved every couple of years. And every time I moved, the trick was to find the channel, the local access channel where I could watch Hammer films and other crazy things, and the PBS channel so I could watch Doctor Who. And then a comic book store or what I would call as my geek store, so I could get all my cool stuff. And of course it varied greatly from place to place that I lived. Oh, and then of course, because I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, the arcade.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
It's funny when we're talking about Rogue, you brought up Age of Apocalypse, because after the general Red Goblin story, a Goblin Queen story, Madelyne Pryor kind of disappeared. She was dead, and they kept her away. But after Age of Apocalypse, and then when the series of Nate crossed over from that alternate timeline to the 616 and was called X-Man, Madelyne was a big part of that. Whether she was not really her because she was a psionic construct, but still, her character was in it. See, I did my research, folks.
Nice job. Madelyne is an interesting character. Do you sometimes feel like, I do think that there was an initial, the initial thought process, and then we end up with people used her as a tool, as they often do, where there's a character that's created and then someone's like, oh, hold it, didn't we have this character going through the little file, between the little files in the libraries back in our day, and they're pulling out a file going, Madelyne, ooh, this would be a good one to pull out, this will really screw with them, let's pull that one out, and let's use that one.
It made sense that they put her in it because Nate was the supposed to be in the offender. It's her son, but from another timeline. So it was probably the obvious choice to go with, but I do know what you're saying. They have the Rolodex.
Different
Yeah.
alternate universes.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you didn't know it was an alternate universe until it became an alternate universe
Yeah.
because somebody new came in and they decided that that whole storyline was a Bobby Ewing in the shower alternate timeline.
Well, that's what
And
the
I
TVA
hated
is for.
those.
That's what the TVA is for.
I know that would drive me nuts when it's like, hold on, what do you mean that wasn't real?
Yeah. But you
I
have a
would
good
get really frustrated because I'm like, hang
Yeah.
on, which is the real timeline again?
You have a point though when you're talking about looking through the, and date me folks, you're having fun when
Yeah.
you're looking through the Rolodex for
Yes.
another
Yes.
character. If you don't know what a Rolodex is, listeners, please Google it. It's not
Google
gonna
it, you'll find
it's
it.
not going to take you to any dangerous sites. You don't have to worry. It's not going to be, well, I'm not going to go there. But yeah, Rolodex. Look it up.
Well, talk about dating us. Episode 4.
Uh-oh.
Oh, talk about the old days. I started okay. So we get Motendo back.
Yeah, I see the word Motendo. I'm like, I see okay, she's back. Well, is it okay? Here's my question. Is Mojo is he, she, they, or I'm not really sure. I've never been sure of that character.
The Jabba the Hutt of
Yeah, but
MCU.
because sometimes he definitely seems female. Or sometimes the character seems female. Sometimes the character seems male, and I just
I'm going
really
to go
don't
with
know.
Mojo as non-binary.
Okay, okay,
and
good,
transcends any
I will go with that.
constructs of earthly gender identification.
Yes.
I looked him up on Wiki. Now Wiki is not the ultimate, on anything, but
Right.
they did some. He is, well, Mojo is kind of. I thought I saw a he in there, so I don't know if that's true or not. But I thought I saw it in the. Oh, he is a slaver who rules the Mojo verse. So take that as you. This is the Wikipedia entry.
Okay.
Take that as you will.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, because the description was a stereotypical TV executive, that was the description in the 90s.
Yeah.
So of course it would have been masculine. So
okay, I buy that. I buy that. I buy that.
Scuzzy car salesman,
I really
television
buy that now.
executive.
Yeah.
But you have to love the fact that they get sent back to this, I don't know, was that 8-bit, 16-bit? I definitely remember it took me back to some of the old arcade games and then reminded me of some of the games that my son played in later years. And I do understand that it is and I had to think about this because I'm pretty sure my son had some of the early X-Men games, but that they based some of the visuals on the early X-Men games is some of the commentary I've heard. But I love the fact that Jubilee and Roberto get sucked into a video game Tron style. Yeah. And after such a heavy, deep storyline, it was nice to have that lightness. Although they intersperse it with another heavy, deep storyline.
Yeah.
What are they doing to my brain?
It's very funny, and I should have brought this up at the beginning. Again, because I'm not, the animated show, I'm not really a knowledge of. When I saw in the first episode, a young male with a slight darkish complexion, and I hate the racial profile. I'm going to myself, DaCosta, has to be. And then they say it is. And I'm like, okay, Sunspot. I have not seen Sunspot. Cystanemia how long ago, but I could totally figure out who it was. And I like that. I like the fact they're bringing in that in one of the episodes, Banshee and oh God, what is the doctor's name? Moira? Is that Yeah.
River McTaggart.
McTaggart, right?
Yeah.
That there are characters that either just are in the background. There's a scene in the courtroom in episode 2. Colossus shows up from nowhere.
No, wait a
to
minute.
help.
If in episode 2, that might have been Morph. Morph can take on the powers of anybody he
But they
changes into.
didn't. They didn't point that out. It was never shown. So I'm taking it that Colossus was there because Colossus has shown up in the animated series a few times. So and it's such a big case.
Sure.
It's such a big case. I would believe that there'd be more people than normal. So I do think it was Colossus. I don't think it was Morph. But yeah, again, this is really enjoyable.
Yeah.
What episode are we on now?
So we're still on 4. So
Okay.
So we've got, and of course, Mojo is trying to, get more likes. Sound familiar, anybody? With the video game, sorry. But at the same time,
Subscribe here.
as a counterpoint to this, okay, I know they're being chased and they're being killed and all this other stuff, sort of. But at the same time, we've got the story of Storm. Storm has lost her powers in the earlier episode, which she had mused earlier, what would it like to be human? And you have to admit, when you're born a mutant, it would definitely be interesting to go back and forth of what would it be like to have not had these powers, to have not be saddled with this difference. And that is something that you will hear from people who do have something that make them stand out. Sometimes they wonder, what would my life be like if I didn't have this thing that made me different from the other people around me? Because there are many times in our lives we don't want to stand out. We don't want to be the odd man out. We don't want to be that one of these things is not like the other.
Right.
And then she's shot by this weapon that takes her powers. And suddenly, for the first time, she feels nothing.
Right. Now,
it would be like losing one of our senses, and the idea of not being able to feel or see or taste to lose something like that. And as somebody who uses a wheelchair, I can tell you that it's like, boy, when it happens, you just kind of go, what the hell? Mine was gradual, but it's weird. And poor Storm, so she meets Forge, who is important in later comic book issues, and we can only assume that he's going to be important later.
Another comic book rational. Basically, when that bullet was supposed to go to Magneto and Storm took the bullet. Okay. In the comic, a weapon that Forge made basically was going to shoot Rogue, because Rogue was under suspicion for killing a SHIELD agent, and instead of her getting hit, Storm got hit. So it's Forge's fault that Storm got hit. And to be honest, because of his weaponry and able to make it, it's very possible that the weapon used to shoot Magneto was made by Forge.
Yes.
Very possible. So
he very clearly has a guilt complex.
Yes.
About the things. And when you look at the pictures around his room and you look at the people that he's had dealings with, and you start to get some Easter eggs in there. But and of course, if you don't know, Storm is highly claustrophobic.
Yeah.
It is actually prior to losing her powers, it has always been her biggest fear.
Yeah.
So this owl, this creature, the adversary, this demon that then haunts her and taunts her, and I mean, talk about a dark episode sneaking in there. Juan, what were your thoughts on episode 4?
I kind of saw that real quick, and I only saw it once. So, I mean, it was kind of scary. I mean, it was kind of interesting doing And I don't know if they did that much in the original show where they would have an A and a B story.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't find it as scary as the stuff that would come to be. But then again, I really saw that story real quick. I mean, I just kind of saw it and then moved on because it was just a crazy.
Trying to
I
get through
said,
them all.
no, that weekend I was kind of busy. That's all I'll say.
Understood.
So, so I saw it real quick. So I mean, and actually, I always meant to see it again because I don't think I completely grokked it. But then we got episode 5 and 6, and now
Which
7.
then helps
Yeah.
flesh it out more.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, now we're going into whatever the big storyline is. I mean, actually, you could say in episode 5, if this is a good segue, is that we're obviously entering Grant Morrison. Also, one of the things I do, Grant Morrison. One of the things I look at all Marvel productions is if you wait through the credits, at some point you'll see above Marvel Studio credits, and after a few frames, you'll finally get to like contributions. Well, they'll give and this is in the back at the end credits, you'll see if the character has like a definite creator, you're going to see created by credits, and then you're going to see significant contributions. It's way down in the credits and way down in the film, and then you can see who wrote what, and I'm pretty sure I mean, I think they have to give a credit to like every character's creator that appeared in that story.
Yeah.
And if there's I mean, I was kind of surprised in the last Ant-Man movie, I think they had to give Harlan Ellison a credit because Harlan one time wrote, or they adapted a story which had to do with the microverse.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh.
Okay.
Now, if you take a look at the last Ant-Man movie, you'll say, we thank it's, I forget if it's we thank or
I think,
like
I
the
think I know.
contribution. There's a credit where you can see all the people and you're wondering, okay, his contribution. And I think, and Grant's name might have shown up because maybe some of his characters have shown up earlier than this, but now we're entering the E is for Extinction storyline with number 5, Remember It.
Yeah, it's back to New X-Men like we mentioned.
Yeah.
Although I do realize, I don't know if this is there was a reason. How did that really stacked Master Mold sneak up on Genosha?
Yes.
So I don't know if that's a story. Is that a plot hole? Or
Well,
is that going to be a twist?
the Master Mole.
I'm hoping that we get some more information.
Yeah, I'm sure we will
in the subsequent ones, because clearly, so in the background, you've got. I mean, you've got all this has to have been happening in the background. I mean, Master Mold, of course, who I don't know, I had thought had been destroyed in, I don't know what episode it was of the earlier series, but of course he wasn't. Nobody truly dies in a comic book.
Yeah.
Or a soap opera. And it just, and of course Master Mold's going to come back because Master Mold is a great big baddie. And it's that interesting AI that basically wants to cleanse the earth of humans for their own sake, and then mutants because they're mutants.
Right.
And humans because they can't seem to clean up their own mess. And I just
you are.
And I've heard a couple different commentaries on this one. Because this one was powerful.
Yeah.
In that so much happened. And in our day and age, and I would say over the last 20 plus years, there is so much that we could see in our own lives, directly and indirectly, in what happened there. And the fact is that I've heard several people mention that it would make sense that they would wait to attack until the fireworks started, because the lights and the sounds would mask everything. There's of course a lot of talk about, who was who was signaling whom,
Mm-hmm.
because it almost feels like they all waited till everybody was definitely engaged, whether it was the
Okay.
fireworks or watching Rogue and Magneto. Everyone was engaged with something else. Nobody was looking.
No.
And then,
Yeah.
you know, and and
It was
then
like Hiroshima. Not
Yes.
Hiroshima. And it was also like Pearl Harbor. It was totally.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was there. And so it was just suddenly
Yeah.
it just it's too many of those sudden attacks that have happened where everything seems to be fine and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, us humans are horrible. We're
Um,
horrible. We're horrible. Let the mutants take
we
over at this
we are
point.
also amazing.
Well, okay.
To
But the
quote
mutants are
Doctor
more
Who,
amazing.
we
Yeah, okay.
No.
Quote Doctor Who in front of me.
yes.
Okay, you win. Yeah, I'm gone.
I don't
You
even have to finish that
You don't have to finish the sentence.
Yes.
You win.
But
The
you know,
argument
it
there.
just it is both amazing and frightening just how much destruction. But then immediately what starts happening is the support during this battle, the mutants helping mutants and the mutants who didn't think that other mutants cared about them, and you know, the Morlocks, and here comes Gambit and he saves them. And then Gambit's final save at the end with the three-headed.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, that was just, and of course, all I'm thinking of, how is he going to survive this? And of course, he doesn't. But
yeah.
There was no way he could survive it. But it just, you stabbed the wrong person with the wrong ability. I actually did watch that episode twice.
Okay.
Because I felt like there was so much going on. It was like watching a news program of a disaster, and there's so much going on. So I had to watch it twice, just trying to catch it. And that's also why I watched a couple of different podcasts and vlogs, because I'm like, okay, I know I missed 5 million things in this one. You know, Juan, what did you get out of 5?
Well, obviously it's the big thing that the season is pivoting on. I mean, everything is changed, and obviously again, you know, obviously you have this unbelievable tragedy that happens that I don't think you've ever seen anything this big happen on the show. I don't think you had anything. It's incredible. I mean, you take an absorbent, and I think that was a good idea. And I think it was a good idea to structure the next episode to kind of go away from that and to, you know, go into space and deal with the Shi'ar, and have and deal with that, and then come back to it. And last week's episode. So yeah, no, it's a big episode. I mean, it's the one that you just, you know, you're pondering. It's like, wow, they went big. And it's also, I think we should make it known that you might not have been able to do this in the 90s, because
I was totally going to say that, Juan. You just took it. Go for it.
Not on an American show, not on an American.
Right.
Maybe if they put it on prime time, you could get away with it, but I don't
think.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That much death. And it's interesting because I had heard in one discussion that when the similar setup happened in the comic series that this is loosely based on, there's a comment about 16 million died in this incident, but it's not mentioned in this. But 16 million probably would not even be mentioned today as a triggering point.
It was basically everyone on the island. Basically everyone on the island.
Well, no, you see,
not all.
You see there's survivors on the island.
No, and there were two. No, they were in both places. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But you know, I think the comic might have been more destructive. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, you could go more intense in the comic.
Yeah.
One thing in the original Chris Claremont, and I recently reread this for an article that I wrote. You did have Magneto sinking a Soviet sub. I don't know. if Shooter would have allowed them to sink an American sub, or would that have? They were afraid that how people would freak out at that. But that was one of Magneto's war crimes, that he sank an entire Soviet sub with all hands aboard.
Was that before Shooter took over? Or
No, that was in the middle.
It was during Shooter. Okay.
The thing is, I did an article on Kitty Pryde for a fanzine, and the first time Kitty met Magneto, I think that's when it happened, that he sank.
Okay.
I think it was when he had that island base. I can't remember the name of the island. It wasn't.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was.
Yeah.
And it was also after, when Kitty showed up, that's when when Kitty came to the school, Jean had just had died.
Yeah.
So
I like Kitty Pryde.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think they have the right. My suspicion is when the show came on board, I think Excalibur took off, where it was happening, so they might not have had the right to. Although Nightcrawler was also part of Excalibur, but then they got him on the show as a guest star. So,
well, was it Kitty showed? Oh no, maybe she did. I thought they did a Days of Future Past story, and
I don't think Kitty was ever in the show.
She wasn't. Okay.
And it's just, and unfortunately,
because I put that storyline. I see her every time I think of that storyline in the comic. You think Kitty Pryde.
Well, the thing is, sadly, since they didn't have the rights to Kitty, I think they would have given all the Kitty stuff to Jubilee, because they were roughly the same age.
Yeah,
when they joined it.
That could have. Yeah.
And again, it's the
Jubilee.
right. And also,
never liked her.
They didn't have the. Well, at least they didn't have. They also didn't have the rights to Colossus, but he might have been off the book. He might have been killed off because
He guessed it.
Well, the thing is, I reread some of the early issues of Excalibur, and I think the X-Men had disappeared, and that's why Kitty and Kurt joined Excalibur.
Was that when they were? They ended up based in Australia on that. I think that was about the time frame. That
Not
Excalibur,
sure.
Because I know they were supposed to be dead. They disappeared, and they used the guy who could teleport, the Aborigine guy who could teleport, and they went places for that. That might have been when Excalibur started, but I don't remember. I can look that up while we're talking. Keep talking amongst yourselves.
But I mean, are we done with remembering it, or do we want to move on to?
Let's move on. I'm not gonna even look.
Let's move on. Let's go to. Yes.
If you in the listening audience have the answer to that, please send it to markwho42.42
in a postcard.
I'll get to that at gmail.com, or go to our Facebook page and write it to us, markwho42's universe, or snail mail, do a postcard. And
we'll get it in 15 years.
Send it to 1212 Northwest 5th Street, New York, 10017. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing from memory the Saturday Night Live address they used in the first 5 years. It's completely wrong, except for the 1010.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's get to Life. Life Death is very interesting to me because I don't think even in the original show you rarely saw Xavier being proactive or being very active in the story. He's the mentor, he's directing, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, or training. So the whole scene where he takes everybody into a mindscape and acts as the teacher was just very interesting. Although I think it's kind of interesting they're limited. It just occurred to me today. It's like, man, they could have made him look a little bit more like Patrick Stewart, but I guess they don't own
maybe
that.
They didn't have that right.
I don't even like the guy's accent. The accent that Xavier has, it's not working for me.
He sounds a little odd to me, doesn't he?
Well, you got to explain that because, I think Xavier. I don't know if Xavier went native when he went to either grad school or undergrad in Oxford. At least I remember in first class, you can see at least the implication he went to the same bar that the J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis went to when they were at Oxford. And it's implied. Well, you always give him a very I don't know. I'm trying to remember what the word is, but you try to make him sound like, okay, this is an intelligent guy. You make him sound like Gore Vidal, Bill Buckley. He's got that intellectual, Eastern.
Yes.
Northeastern.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
intellectual,
non-specific accent that doesn't. Yes.
And but it was fun seeing him be the center. I don't think he was the center of the story
He
ever.
actually
comic?
wasn't.
No.
Usually, well, I'm trying to think how often he might be like little bits and pieces in
Well-
the animated series. He almost never was.
Well, in the comic, he definitely had.
Oh, yeah, well, the comic, he
moments.
could-
It
you
definitely had
could-
moments, but yeah, I don't think the animated series had much. But again, I've only seen the first 2.5, so.
I don't feel like he ever really. I mean, I think that Patrick Stewart did more with him,
Oh.
and James McAvoy
Yeah.
did more with him in the movies than you ever really saw in the animated series. I feel like he was I hate to even use this phrase. He was more of a prop character. He was an important prop character,
Mm-mm.
but he was more of a prop character.
Right.
And we actually got a little bit more of him in episode 6 than we normally would see. But even then, it was more about the Empress and her sister,
Yeah.
and the snobbishness and the Shi'ar Empire and all that,
hmm
and less about him. Even at the end, when suddenly he's thinking about his X-Men and he's suddenly aware of everything that's going on Earth, it's still not about him.
I like when he took them to the what is it, the astral plane one, and
Well,
and
I
Yes.
talk
did it
about the
talk.
mindscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mindscape was really cool. I like that. Kind of reminded me of he was like Peter Capaldi's doctor was a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, kids.
the whole his character was a teacher all the way through. I'm just saying.
He was.
He was.
was.
Yeah.
He was a janitor.
Okay, I'm not going there.
Oh.
I mean, even in the first season, in the first episode,
You know what
he's
I'm
writing
talking
stuff on the
about, don't-
I do.
Okay.
He's writing stuff on the chalkboard, and then he's just a bootstrap in season 2 of it, and yeah, it's kept breaking fourth wall. But anyway, back to
Yes.
the mind sphere.
So that's going to explain why he comes back to us and why he's healthy-ish, because in his suit he can walk again, but he otherwise is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he can walk or not is irrelevant. He's okay. He's not
Yeah.
dead. So that I'm assuming will become important in the future episodes. But what's really important about this episode is how Storm gets her powers back. And it's weird that she's able to get her powers back by facing her fears of claustrophobia
Mm-hmm.
to save Forge, and
Save Forge from
remembering
who?
from the Adversary.
Oh, another plot line from
Yes.
a comic.
No, we
Oh.
have this demon that looks like an owl, although he starts to look more like a raven.
Yeah.
And I've seen the pictures of the comic where I don't know. I've seen some pictures. It's an
Yeah.
interesting, almost more of a skull or a skeleton
Well,
type creature.
There were 2 appearances because when
Oh.
Adversary first appeared, there was a look, and then issues later you saw the real aspect. So
Oh.
yeah. So
Okay.
and I think from what I've seen, the one on the animated is different again. So it wasn't
Gotcha.
one of the 2.
Which
So
would kind of make
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, why would a demon appear in any form but, something different
Yeah.
each time, which would make sense.
Mhm.
Because something supernatural is going to have fun with that. And I do like the fact that she kind of heals herself.
Right.
She remembers what it felt like. She remembers. So what does this mean? Does this mean that the machine is tricking them into
Mhm.
thinking they lost their power, or is it a mental block? Is that what it's doing, like a psi block? I mean, what is this weapon now if she's able to break it by remembering who she really is? I mean, Juan, what do you think about this?
Oh, the storm thing. It was kind of weird. Again, I think I was overwhelmed. I was more overwhelmed with the Xavier story, and then you
Oh.
had Xavier. I was overwhelmed with the Xavier story, and I don't know if that was a good B story to put. You should have made Storm get her own story to have more focus on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I find it interesting. For 2 episodes, they gave Storm a whole part, and I think that helped the 40-minute time slot because you had 25 minutes of one story and then the Storm for another. So in a way, 2 segments, that was its own episode. It just happened to be.
But maybe what
in the
they could
middle.
have done is taken the Xavier with
Mhm.
Mojo
Right. Oh,
and then done Storm as one whole story.
right.
Because to mix that up, I don't know. I think I agree with Juan. I feel
Okay.
like they Storm is such an important
Mhm.
X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah.
They kind of relegated her to a
Well, she was Scott Summers' I mean, it was Cyclops' replacement.
True.
And it did happen, but it would have happened sooner if Claremont got to do the storyline he was going for. But they did have later on. They did have some kind of fight, and she won, and so she became leader. So she is a very important character in X-Men mythos.
Yes. So it
Yeah,
just
so
it felt
maybe she
sad
did
that she
deserve her
was
own episode.
so
Yeah.
underneath, but then it's good because we also get another piece of the puzzle.
Mhm.
We're learning about Mr. Sinister, we're learning
Right.
about Genosha from her, so we get another aspect of Genosha from her. So this is all very important. We're starting to get the behind the scenes, but we'll talk about behind the scenes in a minute, because then that brings us to the episode that dropped on most recently on the 24th,
hmm
and that is Bright Eyes, which is the name that is it Rogue that calls Cable Bright Eyes? Someone calls Cable Bright Eyes. Who calls Cable Bright Eyes?
Well, it sounds like something Rogue would say. It does sound like something she'd say. I don't remember though, and I should.
Oh, I lost you, Juan.
Sorry,
One.
my mistake.
Ooh. Okay.
Technology.
One thing. No, was I forgot, was was Cable in this story? Or if was he briefly in? I don't, because I was focusing on, Rogue going, trying to find where Trask was, and then taking care of trying to find Trask.
That's true.
The Madripoor. So now I'm wondering, where did the Bright Eyes come from? The title for it, unless it's
Cable's in at the very end of this episode.
He is. Yeah.
But we start to get a lot of the behind the scenes of, now there's so much packed into every single one of these episodes, but now we get a lot of crap packed into this one, because now we've got General Ross, we've got Captain America. Rogue talks to Captain America and basically gives him the middle finger when he won't come and help her.
When Captain America throws his mighty shield, he can't anymore.
Yeah, I know. Then
I do like it that Cap takes it in stride, because Cap is going to
because
work.
he knows he's
wanted
to do it.
Well, no, he's going to work within.
Yeah.
The realms. Right. He is searching for Gyrick too.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he's got American laws to take into consideration, and the X-Men.
Or depends, UN, because I think the
UN,
Avengers
right.
came in
right.
under
right.
UN.
So he's got to do it. He's got to do it by the book. But the X-Men doing it. Yeah, let him go, because but he can't. But he totally sees why, and so he doesn't say that. But he is fine with that, kind of, sort of.
But we see all the baddies that we've known about, either from the previous version of X-Men or that have been mentioned or briefly seen. I mean, we got Gyrick, we've got Trask, Good old Trask. Um, it just we get a lot of things dropped in this one.
Yeah.
Like, okay, not Rogue, Jubilee.
Jubilee.
Is Roberto, go home and tell your parents. Now, this is one of those times where the LGBT storyline really is obvious. Go and out yourself to your mom. You're going to be surprised. Mom's like, "Oh, we knew, we love you, but
we're gonna change
shareholders. So don't say anything to anybody." Classic storyline, especially from the 90s, highlighted the don't ask, don't tell time period. So it was just like, oh, well, there's a wow. Okay, so you've got that part going on. You've got Dr. Sinister or Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, he's not a doctor yet.
Sorry.
He's working on his
he's working on his
doctorate
he's
right
working
now.
on his PhD right now as we speak.
Mr. Sinister
then,
kills Gyrick. Well, does he? No, he doesn't kill Gyrick.
No.
The one that we don't know yet.
Right.
Find out at the end.
Yeah.
Or do we find out when he's killing Gyrick who he is?
Are we sure it's a he? Because there was a character that was partially responsible for Genosha named Nova or something.
Well, no, Cassandra.
Well, we can say who it is.
Cassandra Nova, right?
It's Bastian.
Okay.
Bastian kills Gyrick, right?
Yeah, well, it seems like in the show, Bastian seems to be the evil, the big bad for this one. And
yes.
And how are you? Well, the thing is, again, they would need a lot of setup for Cassandra if they want.
Right.
To. I don't know how much setup they're going to need for Bastian.
Well, they've only got 3 episodes left, folks. In this season, yeah.
And also,
it does make you wonder: will there be the other, Cassandra behind Bastian? Because, and of course, we've got Sinister, where some of the things going on with Sinister was actually Apocalypse in the comic series. Some of the things that have been happening in this series were actually Apocalypse.
Yeah.
But I can see where we can only have so many big bads, right?
I was actually going to comment on that. Yes. You really can't have that many. Wait a minute. You can never have too many big baddies. Does that mean you can never have too many big baddies? Or does that mean you can never have too many baddies?
$55 million question, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, and that is that starts to become interesting. I mean, first of all, he starts playing. It goes from Madame Butterfly, and there's all these double meanings about butterflies and cocoons because Gyrick has all those butterflies around his. I don't know. Is it an apartment, a cell? What do you want to call that? A safe house?
It was a safe house. Yeah.
Safe house?
It was a decent safe house, but it was a safe
house.
Yeah,
well,
very nice
as most high profile criminals they get very nice safe houses.
If I could live in a safe house like that, I would have no problem living there. I would, yeah.
But he switches it from Madame Butterfly to Purple People Eater.
Wait a minute, what?
The Purple
What was
People
the one
Eater.
eye, one horn? Where?
One eye, one horn, flying Purple People Eater. Say that one 10 times fast.
To me.
Yes.
I just wonder if they got that because the rights were cheap.
You do. You have to wonder why in the world. Because, I mean, other than the fact that Bastian is purplish, why would we have that? And it's played twice in the episode. And it's kind of this weird, funny type thing. And I don't know, it just makes me kind of think of, you're going to have this big bad thing happen. And here, let's have Keystone Cop music playing in the background practically. But, now we learn, I don't know. We don't learn everything, but we learn a lot.
Yeah.
Juan, how much did you learn in this episode?
Well, we learned that obviously Magneto's alive and is being tortured for some reason or brainwashed by Bastion. Actually, as he mentioned Bastion, the only reason I think we know he's Bastion is because I always have the subtitles turned on because I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
that's because
And it
I don't.
says Bastion, and yeah.
Yeah, and
I thought that Sinister called him that at one time.
okay. No,
Okay.
the thing is,
I think he did.
I usually don't need them, but sometimes I have guests. Like when I re-show Doctor Who episodes, I try to get recordings with
Yeah.
the subtitles. So a friend of
Yeah.
mine, I mean, this same friend has to buy those glasses that you have to wear at the theater.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
See, so that's how we knew it was Bastion, and it's like, okay, it's not Cassandra Nova. Again, I don't know how disturbing it would be when they find out if they use her origin that she was, and it's gotten and Sasha Wood from Casually Comics explained that they've tried to temper it, but the original idea that Xavier was a conjoined twin, or no, not a conjoined twin, but he killed his twin in the wound.
Yeah.
And that was disturbing. Actually, it was weird that I think about it was, well, who came up with this? Him or the two guys who did the Venture Brothers? Because Rusty Venture.
See, I did watch the Venture Brothers. That but okay.
But that idea is kind of a disturbing idea of killing your twin in the wound.
Yes.
And I think Sasha implied that they've tempered around with that, because I think some people felt that might have been a little bit out there, or a little bit
too much.
Too much. That's exactly too much. So, and also we forget the fact that also, and I'm wondering, this is a question I am wondering, is Emma Frost also survived?
Right.
And whether she will now be part of the X-Men. Will she be in the opening credits next
So
week?
you're talking Grant Morrison storyline really there?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, no, I mean, Emma became part of the team.
Right. At the time, right after Genosha, that was part of Grant Morrison's master plan that he had all scheduled out.
For some reason, I thought you said Larson. So I thought you said Larson.
No, Marson. Yeah, Marson. I might have said it too quickly. Okay. Anything else, guys?
Well, we have to bring up another little cameo that I actually almost missed, and I thought I saw something, and then when I was going back and reading things and someone brought it up, and I'm like, damn it, I thought I saw something. You know how you sometimes think you see something in the clouds and you're never quite sure about some of the Easter eggs?
Mm-hmm.
Like to point out that the Watcher from
What If?
No, you didn't.
Yep. The Watcher is in episode, I think it's 5, watching Gambit play basketball. And you kind of go,
I'm going back to that when we're done. I want to see that.
Well, the thing is, unfortunately, there is and I say it's unfortunate because some people will say that this is probably, a cheat, is that Cable can somehow alter the Genosha massacre, or at least save critical members of the Genosha massacre.
Well, that's how Gambit comes back. That's how Gambit comes back. Of course it happens.
And he does say not again when he comes back.
Yeah.
And so
he's tried to stop it before.
But then of course we've got in the original, the X-Men 92, where he tries to play with time, and that's the end of, I think it was the 4th season, where he's playing with time, and he and Bishop are kind of playing with time.
Right.
And he actually loses his time cube, and Apocalypse steals it. And that's when Apocalypse was behind everything. And so, it kind of makes you wonder, are we going to be set up for something like that? Is it going to be different from that? Because then you always get into the timey-wimey stuff where it's like, how much are you going to mess with time and not get into trouble? Because sometimes, and that's where we end up with some of the retcons in X-Men that we've gotten, and Avengers for that matter. We've gotten alternate timelines, and we've gotten new timelines because of people playing with time. And although I have enjoyed them, and I have sometimes had fun with them, and I've enjoyed some of the alternate timelines, they've been fabulous. but then it's like, I don't know what world I'm in anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know
I don't
what's
know what
real
world
no
we're in
more.
anyway. I don't know what world we're in anymore either. And that's not even a cartoon at this point. Oh, I'm sorry, animated show. Can we say the word cartoon anymore? Is that like thrown out? Has that been
I
thrown out?
think because it has a connotation of something only for small children, that people mistake the word cartoon, that, oh, well, then that's for someone who's in grade school. And so we use the
Ah,
word animation so that people understand that it can be multiple age groups. It can
okay.
be something for adults, sometimes
Yeah.
for adults only. And it just, animation has a lot of different meanings.
Right.
And people
That's
are
actually,
willing to give animation a try, but they're
Mm.
not willing to give a cartoon a try.
yeah, that's
Well, I don't-
actually a good point. That's actually a good point. But I'm old school. It's hard to say the word animated series. A
Well, the thing is,
cartoon comes out
you
my
say
mouth.
you say you're old school, and I remember when the Star Trek
The animated
Concordance-
series.
The animated series,
Star
yeah.
Trek, the Star Trek Concordance referred to it, and according
Yeah.
to the DVD document, and I just recently did a rewatch of the first season and I hate to tell you all, 50th anniversary of the animated series. I did a rewatch,
Yeah.
and Dorothy always said Dorothy always claimed that, hey, we're calling it animated. They were,
Okay.
Although I heard there's a 1973 recording of a radio show,
Mhm.
an LA radio show,
Oh,
with Harlan Ellison talking about his debacle of the Star Loss, but at the same time, it was around the time the animated show was being recorded. He goes, folks, it looks like a cartoon to me.
Where
But I
can we
wish
get this? Where can we get this? Where can we get
Oh,
to
I know
listen
where
to
it is.
this?
It's on YouTube. It's the second part. Oh, I know where it is.
Let everyone know. What do we
Mark,
search for?
you have to look for Mark, the guy who wrote the Twilight book, Mark Circe,
Uh-huh.
Zircee.
Oh, yeah,
And the
yeah,
thing
okay.
is, he has a recording. The thing is, it's about he has a recording about Harlan Ellison, and the thing is that has a whole recording. There is another recording of it, but they cut off when Harlan stops talking about the Star Loss. Whereas the one that Mark has on his website, and Mark I think goes by Mr. Science Fiction on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the
oh,
thing is, he
nice.
goes through the whole show until the show ended,
Oh,
and Harlan took some phone calls. And at that time, Harlan admitted that he buried the hatchet with Roddenberry, which would
yeah.
lasts until the 80s, sadly. So that's a tangent about. I think anime. I mean, the thing is also anime is also acceptable. I mean, I think
Well,
cartoon
yeah, anime is good,
is
and for
Yeah.
for the adults, there's hentai. But yeah,
it's hentai.
okay, you know what? And here's a point I'm gonna have to tell you, Juan. I sometimes pronounce words wrong, but
Oh,
the meaning is clear.
all right.
Mindy doesn't understand that either. Don't worry.
But
And right now, Vicky is laughing hysterically to herself off mic. Uh,
oh, and also speaking of anime, I don't know. Did anybody? I'm kind of curious. Does anybody remember the Marvel anime in the 2010 in 2010?
yeah. The Wolverine and the Iron Man, and yeah.
Yes.
Okay, no, I was just curious because it just came into my mind because Emma was also prominent in many ways in that, as
Yeah.
she's always
Yeah.
prominent. Sorry for the.
I haven't watched
review.
any of it recently, but I watched a lot of it. And I think most of it's on Disney Plus now, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
I
Is
think
it
some
really?
of it is. Yes.
Well, Iron Man.
I-
Iron Man should be because Iron Man has
Yeah.
always been under Disney.
Yes. No, I
Yeah.
saw there was a whole bunch of the new animation under Marvel Animation. There's a whole bunch of new stuff, new old stuff
Mhm.
under there, and a lot of it looks like the stuff that my son watched as he got older, and most of it I watched when
Okay.
so, but of course, they like to rotate things in and out.
Yeah.
I hate it when they do that. I understand why streaming stations do that.
Mhm.
But it's like, I don't have time to watch everything I want to watch. Tell me the timeline right now so I can put things in order of when to watch it.
Oh, yeah. Reining it back in. Anything else X-Men to talk about?
I don't know. I think we covered it all.
Okay, we've
I
covered.
think we got it pretty
Okay,
good.
Does everyone have a few more minutes? Do you guys have a few more minutes?
I got to take care of the dog.
All right, well, we'll take it. You know why? We're going to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk a little about the upcoming episodes we're going to do, and especially one of the episodes of Doctor Who that's coming up, thoughts and stuff. So we're going to take another break. I'm Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, Juan Sanmiguel. We will be back right after this.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
The Pullbag is GCRN's comic book review and discussion-based podcast. Join me, TFG and Mike, and the rest of the GCRN crew as we discuss the comics we are reading right now. Inside the Pullbag, you'll also find the origins of how guests got into or out of reading comics, after dark discussions, and so much more. You can find the Pullbag every Wednesday, which is New Comic Book Day, only on geekcastradio.com and on anywhere you consume your podcasts. Make your great escape into comics and jump into the Pullbag today.
You are listening to Mark Who 42's Universe.
Welcome back to the final segment of this episode of Mark Who 42's Universe, where we've been talking about X-Men 97. We're not now, but I'm so Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, and Juan Sanmiguel all here for the journey. In the next 4 or 5 episodes, maybe even longer, we are going to our roots. We're going to be reviewing. This is a hard one. Season 40, series 14, or season 1. Take your pick of Doctor Who. I'm excited. Are you guys excited?
Very.
Juan, you gotta. Yeah, there
Sorry.
you go.
Sorry,
Technical difficulties, folks.
sorry about that. I'm actually gonna listen to another Doctor Who podcast right after this, or at least when I next walk my dog.
Mm-hmm. All right. What do you think? What do you think? Are you excited?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm always excited to see new Doctor Who. I mean, and the best part is when I get to see it with my friends. I usually rerun it with my friends. They don't care about seeing it first run, so I did. I mean, I showed them the Christmas specials. I mean, now it's easier because unfortunately, it was getting difficult for me, at least, to see Doctor Who through other means, simply because it just. And I can't watch Doctor Who with commercials, and I hated. I hated
that.
I hated the fact that I had to watch. I hated to watch. Jodie's finale in with a commercial because I just I couldn't find a way to do it any other way, so it was just
that's
a bear.
painful.
Yeah.
Although I did get to see it the second time, because when I saw it with my friends, it was on wherever it was. It was on Amazon or whatever,
Right.
so I could see it without the commercials, and that was fun.
Yeah. So yeah, on the 10th here, on the 10th in the United States, because it's the same time all around the world, but at 7 p.m. Eastern, which would be 4 p.m. where you are, on Disney Plus, and unfortunately for our UK listeners, at 12 midnight on the 11th. But and you know what? You stayed up for that. There were other things you stayed up for midnight, folks, when things were dropped.
Yeah.
But I do get it. And it's funny because then it's repeated. It's actually broadcast on BBC One at like 6-7 o'clock Saturday. So there are going to be spoilers everywhere for everyone.
I know.
So my word of warning: stay off social media on Saturdays for now on, for the next 9 weeks. The reason I say 9, even though there are 10 episodes, and I'm sorry, there are 8 episodes, 7 weeks. 8 episodes?
It's gonna be tough.
Oh, but because they're going to drop the first 2 on the 10th or 11th, the 10th. And I'm going to do a plug. If you're in the South Florida area, come to the Weekend TARDIS Series 14 party at Ye Olde Falcon Pub. That's at 2867 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. We are going to start it at 6, and we're going to have a trivia contest for a really, really, really great grand prize. You won't believe it. It's going to cost $5 to play that, but coming into the party is free. We're going to watch the shows as they drop on Disney Plus on the big screen. It will be fun. You guys aren't going to be in South Florida, are you?
No.
Juan, can you come down?
If I could teleport, I mean, it's still a 4-hour
I know.
drive or train ride.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been tempted to just go. I've been tempted to go and see Try for a long time, and I wish I could get to swing that.
Yeah,
Artist Repair Incorporated, for those of you.
Okay, they don't say the other name. It's now Try. They don't spell it out for reasons that they think maybe there might be copyright reasons or something.
The BBC will come down on
Yeah, well, I have weekend. Mine is Weekend TARDIS, and no one's come after me. But yeah, they just go by Try. And yeah, TARDIS Repairers Incorporated was a club that started in what, the early 80s.
No, 80. It was.
Wasn't it 80 or was it 79?
No, I think it was 86.
No, because
there was a club that Kevin Mead ran for a couple of years until we got
when
thrown
I
out
was
of school.
when I was the president and you were my newsletter editor. What year was that?
It was after Colin. The thing is, we started around 85 when Colin was the doctor. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we saw the. I'm pretty sure. No, I remember that because I think we were the founders of the club wanted to make Colin's dragon. Somehow they had put a multicolored coat on a dragon doll.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Christina Wolf. I know can't remember your married name, but Christina Wolf, shout out.
That is her married name.
No, I thought she had a hyphenated name.
Well, her original name was Renault.
Oh, then you're right.
That was her maiden name.
You're right. It's Renault. Okay, thank you. You're right. I want to say something nice to the people running TRI now, and I think they've been running it since I left office. Ken and Laura. They come to our meetings every month, and they'll be at the one we're having on the series party on Friday the 10th. But you know what? That's got nothing to do with this. I want to talk about the stories. So the first episode is called what? Space Babies? Space Babies.
Is that?
Yeah.
I haven't remember what the titles are.
It's a cute title. It's a cute title. Russell was like, "Oh, we're going to start it off with a cute kidsy thing." I don't know. I don't really have much to say about that. They tried doing having kids. You know, they were like, "Oh, we could have the babies walk, and we'll do it CG." No, they didn't do it. So they're like in roller things. So but it looks pretty interesting. But the one I want to actually talk about, Devil in the Cord.
No, the Devil's Cord.
Devil's in the. Okay, thank you. The Devil's Cord. I like saying it the other way. Yes, the Devil's Cord. And what's interesting about it, and I'm going to give a theory here. One of the things they can't do, they don't have the rights to the Beatles music, but the Beatles are in it. And then the other week, they dropped the picture of the Beatles. And I kind of don't think they look like them at all. Which brings me to my theory. The maestro, played by oh God, please get it right. Minx Jahoon. Get it right. Minx Jahoon. Her character, the character Maestro, has changed history, another change in history. And the people who are the Beatles are not John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
Oh, of course.
I'm thinking they are replacements. And the job the Doctor has to do is get the real Beatles back into the timeline. If I'm right, I want money RTD because I had that idea years ago.
No. Well, the thing is, Stephen Shapansky on Radio Free Skaro has been commenting because he's into music. I mean, he's a musician, and he's always been complaining ever since the first pictures have come out that was not Ringo's drum kit. You know, that Ringo would have a different drum set. Yeah. So whether this is a part of the story or not, and as you know, and I don't know if Vicky knows, supposedly Russell has gone on record that they don't have the Beatles music. So
no. In fact, we couldn't have it in the Chase over here and everywhere other than England.
Well, it is on the Blu-ray. I remember seeing the ad for the Blu-ray, and you did see the Beatles in the trailer for the Blu-ray.
Oh, you're right. I think you're right. Okay, I think they did get it. I think they well.
I think for a Blu-ray, you have a little bit more money that you could splurge for getting ticket to the ticket.
And if they don't, the series box sets in England are region free, so you could buy a Blu-ray of season 2, the British one, and it'll play over here. So if we don't have the Beatles music, you can get it from over there.
So,
In
I
fact,
mean,
that's actually interesting. Did you know that a lot of the Blu-rays of Doctor Who are multi-regional? Even the Blu-rays?
well,
I never knew
Blu-rays
that.
are
Oh, no.
multi-
I never knew that.
Oh, I
I
don't
was
know.
trying to sell. I was selling Blu-rays at conventions, and I was telling people you need a special one. No, they didn't. Yeah. Anyway, you were saying one.
Oh no, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, whether that's going to be part of the story or
Yeah.
not. I mean, uh, there've always been a couple of Beatle. I know Peter Davison did a big Finnish Beatles story with him walking on Abbey Road.
Yeah.
So it's about time. I mean, and also quick trivia. You might know this. I don't know if Vicky knows this. Which of the Doctors actually played a Beatle?
Oh, that was hold on. Eccleston played.
Oh, actually, it's two Doctors.
It's two Doctors, Eccleston and Capaldi.
Right.
Yeah,
Eccleston played John, and Capaldi played George.
Yes.
Really?
It's yeah.
Oh, and Capaldi did it in the 80s. It was for
Yeah.
a movie. I forgot who played John, but Kim Miori played Yoko. It was a movie about John and Yoko.
Right, and so you got Torchwood and Doctor Who in, well, same thing, Doctor Who. Yeah. So I'm very excited. So the next few, we're taking a break. We took a 4-month break. We're taking a break next week, and then we're coming back right as the premiere. And we're going to be doing our reviews, not doing a season review like we've kind of done for the last. We're going to try to do every 1 or 2 episodes of the series, and it's only 8, so it's 4 or 5, 6 shows. We can do that. We'll have fun. You'll have fun. Doctor Who. Woo-hoo. Any final words?
No, nothing. I hope to look forward to it. It's going to be complicated for me because May is a complicated month for me. So, but you've got some amazing people. So we're amazing people. So let's figure it out.
Okay, Vicky, any final?
I am just so excited, and I'm hoping to still be able to watch my the 2 episodes when I'm in the UK.
Oh, she's going our sister show. We do an infomercial for the 77 publications called Mark Who 77. You can find it on YouTube. Go to at the 77 publications over there, and we interview British comic guests and comic creators. And Vicky is going to Lawless, a comic convention that the 77 sponsors, and yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what to say except
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Well,
I'm going to Britain in August.
Okay.
Cool.
But Vicky, please get some footage so we can put on the show.
I will do my best. Absolutely.
We'll do a hookup one of those days, and we'll talk from both sides of the Atlantic like we normally do.
Yeah.
Well, not you, but and buy me something, please, just something.
I will find you something.
Thank you.
We're only taking carry-on, so it's going to be small.
I know. That's fun. If you want to see past shows of Mark Who 42, Mark Who 42's Whoniverse, which we did from like 2012 to 2018. Most of the episodes are available on YouTube. Go to the Mark Who 42's Universe channel, or just type in at Mark Who 42 on YouTube, and you can go to the playlists, and we've got all our interviews. We have over 150 celebrity interviews, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Babylon 5, Tron, everything you can imagine. Please go there. Please write to us if you have a comment or anything about our show. Write an email to markwho42.42@gmail.com. Send a snail mail postcard to Box 350, Boston, Mass. 02134. Okay, you got your Zoom. And go join our Facebook page, Mark Who 42's Universe. It's there. Until next time. I don't want to say Alonze because I'm going to use that in the next few shows. But myself, Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, Juan Sanmiguel. Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast, or as it's simply known, Mark Who 42's Universe. Hosting the show were Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, Zion Kiros, and Juan Sanmiguel. If you'd like to leave a comment for us, please email us at marku42.42@gmail.com. Mark Who 42's Universe, copyright 2024.